Hi guys, Traveling Teacher here, and I want to dedicate this video to talking about how I strategize and network with people within the wildlife community. And really, it comes down to that often in many cases where I'm at these countries and I'm traveling around. It's just how I prioritize my communication and who I connect with. And once you start to build that initial network, you can spider web out and meet tons of new people. So I have connections at the BBC, I have connections with Nat Geo, I have connections with legitimate wildlife researchers and zoologists across 3 continents. And it just comes from asking questions. Who am I? I'm just an average regular person. It just comes from asking questions, connecting with people, and just finding ways to sort of connect the dots between your passions and people who are experts in the field on those passions. So I want to tell a story, first of all, about when I first went to Belarus. And the story when I went to Belarus goes something like this. When I arrived, I first found out the most essential things. Where's the bathroom? Where's the basic necessities? Then after that, the next thing that was most important to me was, has the BBC or Nat Geo been in this country? And if so, who do they work with? So I found out that it was not very often that either of those 2 entities had come into Belarus and done work. So then what next? Do I just quit at that point? Well, of course not. So then I met one of the top portrait photographers in all of Belarus, and I'll put a link in the description to his work down below. You get to have a connection with him if you're interested in portrait photography and various forms of really cool advanced photography. And I asked him, look, do you know anyone doing wildlife photography in this country? And then, of course, he does, and then he connects me to the next photographer, who then, when I go and meet with that photographer, this person, I didn't necessarily want to go out with that photographer. I wanted to find out who that photographer is using to get out into the community, or out into the nature, rather, and explore wildlife. And indeed, he had his connections. And so it was from that connection that I then began meeting some really cool people. And well, everyone was cool along the way, but in particularly cool meaning they connected with my passions related to wildlife. And so one person in particular I've talked about before in previous videos was Vadim and his wife Irina. And down in the description below, I will include links to so many incredible experiences I had with them, learning how to track wildlife, how to research wildlife, things to be looking for in behaviors. And so this just came from asking around, getting rejected, asking someone else, continuing to ask, and finally you cast that net out far enough and you'll come across some gems that really help you move forward in wildlife. And so the experiences I had with Vadim were priceless. They were incredible. You know, when I first met Vadim, actually, he wasn't used to working really with photographers, actually. He was used to working with researchers. Various researchers would come from throughout Europe to the Nalibokki forest and work with him. And he was used to hosting at his field station research projects, tick researchers, wolf researchers, link researchers, raccoon dog researchers, bird enthusiasts who are doing data collection on the numbers in Eastern Europe of certain types of birds. And so I was one of the first ones who came sort of in a tourist capacity, and it was quite interesting at first to just see him adjust to that and accommodate this interest that I had. So it's just about putting yourself out there and asking questions. I have connections with people just by going to social media. This is another fantastic space to go. A lot of people go to social media just to look at nice pictures related to wildlife, but pay attention to who's posting. Pay attention to the organizations and what they're promoting. And through those connections, you can really do some fantastic stuff there as well. So Sri Lanka is another example, another story for me. So I happen to know some people who had some connections in Sri Lanka that were really nice connections across the country. And so I started with them and I said, I'm really interested in wildlife. I know there's some nice national parks in Sri Lanka. What do you recommend? They gave me some initial contacts. I reached out from there. And again, a lot of rejection, a lot of no, but it's just pushing, if that's something that you're really passionate about. And eventually, I came across this organization that provides nice hotels and resorts, and then also they're connected with an organization that works with the BBC and on occasion Nat Geo. I think I have that right. I think it's mostly actually Nat Geo, and on occasion they work with the BBC. They were a fantastic organization, and even working with them, I began to learn about some of the things that I should request on a safari, for example. So I learned a lot from them along the way as well. But yeah, so this particular organization, I was asking them, the one that has all of these resorts, I asked them, where does Nat Geo work? That same question that I often ask. And they said, well, they work with this particular organization, and this organization hosts all of their camera work here, their recordings and their episodes that they create. I said, wow, fantastic, put me in contact with them. So again, down in the description below, I'll have links to my trips that I had with that particular organization who hosts wildlife safaris and trips and such and research in Yala National Park. And even with them, it was really cool because, again, if you connect with the right people, it matters. So most tourists in Yala National Park, they go to Block 1 because that's where you can see the sloth bear, that's where you can see the leopard, all the different wildlife. But I found that in other blocks, there's 5 total blocks at the time that I went several years ago. There might be more now, but there were 5 at the time, and 3 of them were operational, and the tourists didn't go to these other 2 blocks. And so this organization understood my intentions. They understood that, similar to Nat Geo coming in, it's about those private encounters with wildlife. It's not getting in queue with a Jeep, etc., etc. And so the quality of the connections also matters as you connect with more and more people. And you'll find that as you spread that network out, you're going to have wildlife connections that are of such a good quality that you don't even have to explain yourself and your expectations. They already understand what you're expecting. There's another one, the final story I want to share is in the Masai Mara. So I met, he's not really even a guide, he works essentially with researchers, although sometimes he guides and provides photo tours for people like standard safari tours. But I met him through a friend who was working at a school I was working at in Kazakhstan, who knew somebody at Boise State, who then was doing vulture research work in India. And then I connected with that person, and then eventually that person said, hey, my vulture work that I do, very serious, fantastic vulture work, that's happening also in East Africa. You should connect with my connection in the Masai Mara. And so that's how that connection came about. The connection with that guy was amazing. And so when we're out in the field now, it's so easy. We don't even have to use words with each other when he's guiding me, because we are on the same level of thinking. We have the same thoughts about what we're looking for in terms of animal behavior and things like this. So yeah, it's all about the networking you do and the questions you ask, and go beyond the mere tourist level if you're really serious about wildlife trekking. So to recap, what I would recommend is if you're going on a vacation somewhere, going on a trip to some country, the first thing I would definitely ask would be, does Nat Geo work here? Does Animal Planet work here? Does the BBC work here to capture wildlife videos? And if they do, who are they working with? And that's your entry point into finding out who's going to be the best organizations to connect with as you do wildlife trips. So I wish you all luck in all of your wildlife expeditions and trips. I hope this is helpful. Traveling Teacher here. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you hit the subscription button and the notification bell button below. Make sure you like this video. And for more content, stay tuned. Check out this playlist. Check out that subscription logo there. Keep traveling.